Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio, the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques. Together, we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
I am doing very well. Excited to be here as I am every time, but especially this time because it's from a guest from long, long ago.
All right. Excited to have you too. And in the guest spot, we're happy to welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Amanie Illfated. How you doing, Amanie?
Happy to be back.
Yeah, the last time you joined us was in 2019. So that was in the before times when we did the show live in the radio station in downtown Toronto. So this is the first time we're seeing you since then.
Yeah.
Back on the show. Okay, and for everyone else, please send your comments and questions to @SongTalkRadio on Facebook or Instagram, or feedback@songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mentioned, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And today, you're definitely going to want to do that, folks. Lyric sheet is going to be very important today. And just before we get to the meat of the show today, once again, we are putting the final call out to our listeners to submit your songs for our Songwriting Challenge 2023, which has been to write a song in an unusual mode, or a mode you're not familiar with. I've been keeping up with the podcast. We do have a dedicated webpage on songtalk.ca, Songwriting Challenge 2023, where we feature a bunch of resources and the episodes we've done so far, where I shared my answer to the challenge, Phil shared his answer, and we've done one episode so far featuring our listeners' songs, and there's more listener song episodes to come. So so if you're still in the midst of writing your modal song, send it along to feedback@songtalk.ca, and include an MP3, a lyric sheet with the chords, especially, and give us a little paragraph about your songwriting process and what you learned about writing in a mode and what you discovered and all that good stuff. And we'll feature your song on the podcast.
Yeah, we have one more. I think we have one more show of listener songs lined up, at least.
Yeah. And if we get some more, then we'll do another episode sometime in the fall.
Yeah.
And we've also got, we love getting listener emails. And we got one from our good friend Lynn Moe. Lynn actually submitted his song to the Songwriting Challenge, and we featured his song on the listener episode a couple weeks back. And he wrote to us after that episode. He said, "Greetings, Neil and Phil." After listening to the episode, sorry, I was reading his earlier email. After listening to the episode featuring Neil's pretty cool song, I found the discussion of AI pretty interesting. Like Neil, I had reached a crossroads with lyrics, so I used an AI lyric generator to get the juices flowing. I found that if I entered in specific thoughts about what I was trying to convey for a particular lines, I got back some interesting results. I didn't use the lyrics exactly as produced, but there were several nuggets in there that I was able to nab that did the trick. Maybe AI is useful for this sort of thing. I tried a couple of AI-generated lyrics around the topic of passing or lost time. One of the lines contained layers of time and another ended with the word debris. I pulled out these nuggets to craft a line to add to one I already had. And then the lyrics are hard to set aside those layers of time with decades of debris. Need to stand behind those younger eyes to see what I've seen. All in all, I really like the lines it conveyed and what I was thinking. Sadly or not, I doubt I would have ever come up with this without a little help from AI. Keep on keeping on, Lynn. Wow.
Well, it's like having a co-writer. I mean, it's not like a real co-writer, but it's someone, and that's what they say about the Nashville process, where everyone's in a room and contribute a word, earn a third. And the idea is that you might say something to someone and that might not get used, but that prompt might come back and say, "Oh, you mean roses are blue or something?" And then that gets spiked by that prompt. So you need something sometimes to have something new in your brain that's unexpected, and AI is good for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I tried using it for photos, and it's horrifying because people's eyes are in the wrong place. It's but not like really wrong, but just a little bit wrong. So it kind of looks horrific, actually.
Yeah, even a little bit wrong is going to throw you off.
Yeah. So
big time. Yeah. How about you, Amanie? Have you experimented with any AI tools for songwriting yet?
I don't even know how to activate the app.
If you use the Microsoft Edge browser, it's actually ChatGTP is actually built into Edge now. It's like right.
I think I have to take a day to learn, what it is.
Yeah,
it's called GTP.
GPT?
GPT. We don't even know what it's called.
Yeah.
Well, that's why the robots are going to take over.
Exactly, because they actually know what it's called. No, but our friend Blair Packham, he was on the show a couple of weeks ago. He mentioned Lyric. He mentioned another website that he found that was like Lyric Generator or something like that. And there's a number of tools out there. It's just a matter of accessing them and finding them. But I take it you don't have much interest in even the notion of the idea of doing that.
I mean, it came up so quickly that I didn't actually, by the time everyone was using it, I was just like starting to hear about it. So
yeah, I don't even know that everyone is using it. I think some people are using it. I don't know everyone.
I think like people in my circle are definitely using it.
Oh yeah.
I've heard that they're using it to write their bios or to send emails. I've heard of that, but I just need to find where this app is first, what it's called.
Yeah,
it's openai.com.
You can just Google ChatGTP, you'll find it.
Yeah, that's true.
Just Google it. One day when I have time and patience.
Yeah, exactly. You got a moment. You're not globetrotting. And we got another email from Steve Johnson, and Steve Johnson as well. We shared his song to our songwriting challenge on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He wrote to us and said, "Hey, Neil and Phil, thanks so much for reviewing my song on the Song Challenge review episode. I'm flattered over your compliments, specifically the Steely Dan comparison," which was very much the case. A little insight into the mixed meter DAW dilemma. Because his song had a bunch of time signature changes, and we got into a small discussion about how easy or hard that is to do in your recording software to do time signature changes. And he says, when recording MIDI instruments, usually drums and keys, I generally keep the click in groups of 4 and play through the mixed meter the best I can. Often I will record in segments, starting on a fresh 1 each time, and then slide the chunks together. With the drums in place first, I can then play through the entire mixed meter labyrinth, sans click. While this can result in a few clunky starts and stops, it might be ultimately easier than setting up the mixed meter ahead of time, section by section. An interesting aside, I had casually listened to the show several times in the past. I became a regular listener after you had Bill Bartholomew organic songwriting episode as a guest. I play bass with Bill, and when he goes on the full band route, he's a great songwriter and engaging performer. Thanks again. I thoroughly enjoy the show, Steve Johnson. Thanks, Steve, for sharing your thoughts and your challenge, and we're glad that we got a new listener out of you. That to me is a really weird method to record it. Put everything in 4/4, record as much as you need, and then move stuff over to fill the gaps.
Yeah, well, it's that's one of the disadvantages about doing everything on your own. Is that if you had a band, then you could do your time signatures organically and just record that.
Yeah.
But having to do it sort of with a click, you'd have I guess you can do the time signatures. It's definitely harder. It's doable, but maybe that's why there's so much music that is loop based now, because it's actually easier to write loop based music in modern DAWs. So.
I suppose that's true. I mean, I know for myself, when I did my electropop EP a couple of years ago, that was all odd time signatures. I wrote the songs just with a piano bass, it was just the chords, right, and the melody or whatever, right. But I would just like this is how it works some of the time. I would just play the riff as it was on my piano, and it's just 4/4, it's just clicking away, and I just play it, whatever it's going to be, and then I'll go back and alter the ruler so that it matches up with my piano playing. Right, like it's in time, but the 1 may change, after the 5 or after the 7 or whatever, right? and then I would go back and change the thing, and then I'd have my pattern. I know what it is, and I can just repeat that, and then I have my meter set up. But to me, like his thing about recording it in bits and then splicing it together, and you get chunky starts and stops. Yeah, you would totally get chunky starts and stops. Although his song seemed really organic and flowed.
Yeah, it did not seem that way at all.
It didn't seem that way at all. So, you know, he
I do have a bit of bad news.
What's
a bit of bad news for our listeners and for Neil. Now, next year, our songwriting challenge will be to write in an odd time signature. I'm sorry. It's about time we did this, and we're going to have to do it. And I'm not happy about it either, but we'll do what we can do.
You can just fire up like any number of songs written in the past year.
But I can't.
I know, that's my go-to. Oh boy, I'll have to be the resident expert for that one. Yeah, cool. Yeah, but thanks for sharing that, Steve. That's a really interesting process and stuff. It's but and that just goes to show like whatever works for you. There's no solid rule about how to do these things, recording or songwriting or anything like that. There's just a bunch of things we hear from other people how they do it. You try it yourself. It works for you. It doesn't work for you. That's for you to discover. And that's what a lot of this is about. So you do you, Steve.
I would love to hear how our listeners do handle their songs in strange time signatures or mixed. Oh, it have to be mixed time signatures next time. Not just one. It has to be
not just 1-7-4 all the way through.
No, yeah, it has to be mixed. I'm a terrible human being. That's an awful thing to do.
How are we going to do that to our listeners?
You're going to do that to us.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's all we got for the pre-show. We're very happy to have Amanie Illfated back with us. Amanie Illfated is an award-winning South Sudanese-born international recording artist. Her music consists of thought-provoking multilingual songs mixed with a dynamic blend of R&B, Afropop, reggae, and trap, all combined with her signature clear-toned vocals. She incorporates her personal experiences growing up as a refugee in Canada to deliver inspirational messages of empowerment, healing, diversity, and fun, and captivates audiences with her energetic, inclusive live performances. She has been described as the African MIA. Welcome back to Song Talk Radio, Amanie Illfated.
Thanks for having me again.
Awesome to have you back on the show. And we're going to play one of Amanie's new songs off your new album called Divine. And the song is called Halawa. Is that how you pronounce it? Yes. Okay. And just for our listeners, we on the Song Talk Radio website, we always post the lyric sheets. For this one especially, you want to be referring to the lyric sheet because there are literally 5 languages that you incorporated into this song. And Amanie was awesome enough to include a second page of the lyrics, which has the translations. So if you want to know what she's singing about, then this is how you can find out. So it's a really great thing to follow along for this one. But let's take a listen to Halawa by Amanie Illfated featuring, is it Kaijo?
Heijo.
Heijo? All right, let's have a listen.
It's getting really cold though it's summertime. Chilling in the sun, feeling like it's midnight. Heart's beating but I feel nothing inside. I know that's not right. Take it to the top, K, what you saying? Rastai mastaka lemtien. Malu mahabatai mathi. Malu okingali halawa. Halawa, halawa. Matashilu dawa halawa. Halawa, halawa. Matashilu dawa. Gisim taki makwa shilu halawa. Mafi sofi but shilu halawa. Zoki chibu with the slut shilu halawa. Halawa, halawa.
Amanie, you need some money. Alawa, Deja Mahara. Just smoke the chala. I won't tell your mama. We should try it, less stress, try and enjoy the drama. Have you tried the yoga?
Oh no, I haven't.
Something you need to get over?
Oh no, there isn't.
Did you kiss a cobra?
I probably shouldn't.
Is it funny what they told you?
They said that I couldn't.
Don't listen to them, baby. They gon' drive you crazy when they try to judge you. Tell them, pay me. Tell them, pay me.
I tell them, pay me. Kiss قسمتك معك شيلو هلاوة ما في صوت في بال شيلو هلاوة زود بتجيبه وتسرق شيلو هلاوة 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 قسمتك معك شيلو هلاوة ما في صوت في بال شيلو هلاوة زود بتجيبه وتسرق شيلو هلاوة 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 Je ne sais pas, soudain je suis là-bas. Что это, я не знаю. Просто платья понимаю. Je me révèle, lakin она лиса ману. Je ne peux pas dormir, je ne peux pas penser. Она мадеруку. Халава, халава, халава. маташили дава, халава. Халава, халава. маташили дава. قسمتك معك شيلو هلاوة صوفي بتشيلو هلاوة زود بتجيبه وتسرق شيلو هلاوة 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 قسمتك معك شيلو هلاوة ما في صوفي بتشيلو هلاوة زود بتجيبه وتسرق شيلو هلاوة 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 ما تشيلو دعوة كيجو هلاوة هلاوة Amanie Illfated. No, don't take life so seriously.
Awesome. Okay, that was Halawa by
Yes.
Amanie Illfated, written by Amanie Illfated and Keijo.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
So you-
Where do we start with this song? There's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
So you speak all these languages, though.
Most of them. Shona is actually a Zimbabwean language, which is what Keijo speaks.
Okay.
And then there's Arabic Juba and English, which I speak on the daily. And then there's French and Russian, which I've learned in the past. So.
You've learned Russian?
Yes.
Because
Wow.
this is just what you do sort of for fun?
Yeah. When I was younger, I was a bit of a nerd, so I needed to learn everything. So I heard a song in Russian one day, and I was like, that language I need to know, and I had to learn how to read it and write it and speak it. Yeah.
Wow.
Is it okay? So is the decision to put Russian or French in any of these songs, like, is there some kind of, let me get this straight, like there's an overall idea for the song, and does that lead you to throw in Russian, or do you just throw in Russian because you just learned it and you want to use it?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
When we wrote the song, we were, first of all, to start the song, we started with plum wine. So I hadn't tried plum wine before, and he was like, do you want to try this? I'm like, sure. So we took that, and then the plum wine kind of gave us this vibe. And Keijo's like he's a really great artist. He has such a great vibe. So we just kind of were like bouncing ideas back and forth. And then he was writing stuff that sounded like a bit crazy. And then I started writing stuff that sounded crazy, but I felt like it just wasn't hitting the point in English. And, the Arabic part has already been like consuming the whole song. So it's like, let's just throw something else in there, make it sound a little bit different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is very, I mean, there's like one line of Shona, and then it goes back to Arabic Juba, and then it goes to French, and then, like it almost feels random. Like it almost seems arbitrary how the languages shift. I mean, I don't even know if it's mostly English. I suppose it is mostly English. It's mostly English and Arabic, right?
Yeah, English and Arabic, yeah.
Yeah, the Arabic is in the chorus.
Yeah, in the chorus and in the first verse.
So was this because the chorus is basically take candy, your body isn't feeling well, take candy. Does take candy, does that mean something other than take, like eat candy, or is there
Yes. Sorry, there's a ambulance going by. But so with the song, when I started writing it, the idea was, especially for the chorus, the idea was kind of this perspective of like when you're depressed, when you're going through a really rough time, and then you try to explain it to, say, African parents, parents from a different culture, or even people, neighbors from a different culture, they always have a solution. And the solution is always something that doesn't really make much sense. So you'll say like, oh, I'm feeling really low today. And someone will tell you like, go to that tree and take that apple there, cut it into 3 pieces, mix it with tea, and then drink it, and you'll feel much better. Or, you know, you're just having a really down time, like maybe something happened in your family. You go and you tell someone, and they're like, there's this priest or this like shaman or someone that's on this mountain. You just go climb that mountain and you go and he will give you the solution. Or you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, take all these medications, you know? So the halawa is actually just whatever solution that people give you whenever you're saying something. So gisum taki makwas, your body's not feeling good. And then someone just says, you know, shilu halawa, you know?
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because in my background, it's the same sort of things where you're feeling sick or whatever, and then your parents or your in-laws are like, well, we have this formula, right, of this stuff that's not, you know, it's a difference between like science medicine and sort of natural medicinal things that have been there for thousands of years, right? Like you know, like these things have worked for many generations going back, right? So they move it forward and that's what they recommend, right? And so this will always work. But yeah, that's really cool because then it is. But why halwa? Like if halwa is candy.
Because it's one of the most, especially in South Sudan, halwa is just like a word. It's candy, it's sweets, it's whatever, and everybody likes it, you know, everybody knows what halal is. Children know what halal is, adults know what halal is. So I was just thinking of a word that would just be resonating, especially with South Sudanese.
Right.
Does it mean sort of just kind of like anything good?
Yeah, it's pretty much all sweets. Literally translated, it's sweets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was the process of the writing was like? So at what point did you arrive at the chorus?
So the chorus was written probably 6 months before, before we finished writing the rest of the song. And I wrote that in South Sudan. Most of the album Divine was written, you know, in Africa somewhere. So this one was actually written there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you did the verses sort of at the studio, or?
Yes. We decided that we didn't want to like put too much thought into it, because I mean, even for me, I feel like if I put too much thought, then it just becomes too technical and just whatever. And Keijo is one of those people who are like on the fly, let's just do it right now and record it right now. So we went to Keijo's studio, and as soon as I got there, we're like, okay, let's get down to business, and just started to, you know, the plum wine came out, and it's like, let's write this.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's much more, I mean, like I've heard some of your stuff before, and we've had you on the show before, and sometimes you do get into some pretty serious topics. This seems like one of your fun songs.
Yeah, for this album, I wanted like all the serious stuff to kind of have a fun vibe.
Okay.
And then all the fun stuff can be a little bit more complex and have more, you know, depth to it. So this was one of those songs where I was like, it's about depression, but I mean, you can go to the middle of the dance floor and dance it out. And then maybe one day when you're in your room and you're like reading the lyrics, then you're like, oh, I know the secret now.
Right.
Yeah.
And you often say that even in more traditional forms of songwriting, where, you know, you're sort of lifting the curse. Like if it's a really sad lyric, then lift it up with kind of upbeat, happier music.
Exactly.
Otherwise it just becomes this like really depressing dirge, right? And,
yeah, exactly.
Right. And then, well, it's rewarding for the listener, like you say, if you go and, you know, investigate the lyric a little bit deeper upon, you know, your 50th listen, it's like, oh, wait a minute, this thing's actually like, it's about something darker than the vibe that's on. Because I was actually really curious about the beat. Like, is this like, what kind of a beat is this something that your collaborator came up with?
So it started with me trying to write a happy song.
Right.
Sort of, and then I was like, no, let me just write a nice dark song. So I came up with a bass line.
Okay.
And it was like dun 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 dun, and then I started adding some stabs into it. And then I just kind of fleshed it out and then sent it to a producer out in Kenya.
Oh.
And then he listened to it and he decided, okay, I'm going to interpret it like this. So that was his interpretation, like, his drumming patterns, all of that kind of, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the verses, so the verses come after the beat, after you did the beat.
Yes. After we did the beat, I got the beat back, and then I wrote the chorus to it. Then I kind of like kept it in mind, and then a few months later, once I met with Keijo, then we plugged in the rest.
Yeah,
is that a usual thing for you, that you have an idea for a song, you sort of tuck it away, and then you revisit it some other time with a collaborator or without, whatever, or do you generally kind of write things all at once?
It's especially for this album, yes, it was mostly the beats first. I think it was maybe only one song where we actually had the lyrics come before the beat. I think that would be Divine, I would say. Divine, the first song would be that one. But most of the time it's like I have the melody in my head. Most of the time it's even the chorus is already in my mind. And I know how the song is going to go. So I just kind of flesh it out, and either I finish the production or I take it to the band, or the producer, finishes it off.
Right. There are a lot of editing for this song. I mean, there's actually a lot of words in this song.
Yeah, this one was tough. It actually took about 3 months to mix. So it was very complicated. And yeah, I think it's just because I had the idea of how it was going to go, especially with that, like the beep 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 part leading just before the third verse, and that one was like really hard to relay, that it should sound a little bit like a hospital setting, but like kind of like a disco setting as well. Like think of a hospital in a disco, if that makes sense. So that one took a little while to kind of like, okay, that's how she wants it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. There's a lot of details in this with the talking parts and even the structure. Like it's kind of verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then a verse, and then you go into the chorus. You don't visit the pre-chorus again until afterwards, and then there's a bridge and there's an outro and stuff. It's very it's very deliberate, the structure of the song.
Yes, because I wanted it to be, especially for this album, I really wanted it to be like almost like the song is a movie in itself. So I wanted to tell stories, especially stories that I've seen in Africa, stories that I've seen in Canada. And since I was doing I call it the Atlantic ping pong, I wanted to like merge all of that together and give people like little bits of different countries, see what different cultures are like. I didn't want the music to sound too African. I wanted it to sound like something you could hear in Canada and something you could hear in Kenya.
It does sound really international, which I thought was really cool. It doesn't, like you say, there's definitely African, influences and the bass, and the rhythm and so on. But it sounds like an international, like a global music, as opposed to music from Africa or music from this, which I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, it's certainly not weighted towards one culture or another. It is very, and it's not just because of the languages. I think because the beat itself, like I was talking about the beat before, like it sort of sounds like I don't know much about Afro beats necessarily, but it sounds kind of like that, but not really. So it sounds in the middle somewhere, and it's just a balanced, a balanced thing like that. It's really, really cool.
So why did you choose like which words to be in which language? Was there was it just sort of kind of a random thing what sounded good, or is there kind of like more of a strategy to that, or?
It wasn't really much of a strategy. It just kind of flowed with what I say the most in those languages, because it's a conversation with the self. It's kind of conversation with self, but like imagine if your self is divided into like three and you're having a conversation, three-way conversation. So I was like, well, this personality here is going to be like this, and this is usually what that personality says, and then this one here is, full on Russian, and that's what this person's going to be saying, and then I'll react in this way.
What's there's one line that popped out just because it was so unusual to my ears, but I thought, is this sort of a saying in another culture, which is like, did you kiss a cobra? Imagine isn't really an issue for most people, but is there more of a language, or is there a cultural thing there that,
or is it a metaphor?
Is it a metaphor?
Yes. It's not a metaphor, actually, according to Keijo. So he says that in certain tribes, you'll go and see the witch doctor, and part of releasing a curse is to kiss a cobra. So yeah, and that just plays right into, because he really understood when I said, Keijo is actually, he was born in Zimbabwe, and he's half British, half Zimbabwean. So he gets literally both sides of cultures, and then he moved to Canada and learned this culture as well. So he really understood like the African deep tribes, what they do and their traditions, and then he understood how weird it would sound to tell someone here that if you get sick, we find a cobra and and you're supposed to kiss it, or
and it's interesting that you put that line in English. Like had you put that line in Arabic, then for most listeners here anyway, it would just completely fly by them and they wouldn't necessarily know what you're talking about. But it's interesting that you put that in English.
I feel bad for the cobra. I must be sitting there going, he never writes, he never calls,
That is so true.
Just come and steal a kiss and walk away. You're done.
Leave you out.
Oh no.
Oh my goodness.
Wanted to invite, introduce them to all the cobra friends and the cobra bars. I don't know much about cobras, so I don't know if they have bars.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's
generally
more of a cafe culture.
Yeah, it does seem like one of those things where you don't want to necessarily kiss them. I mean, it's like cobras are deadly, right?
Yeah, they're really deadly. Plus, they're snakes. So
they're snakes. That's true.
Yeah, sure, but it does go to this idea you're talking about for those of us that are used to penicillin and those kinds of solutions for stuff. It seems strange, right? It seems really kind of, like you say, like witch doctory.
Exactly, especially for things with dealing with mental health. Like if you say, oh, I'm taking anti-anxiety medication, or I'm taking antidepressant medications, a lot of people would look at that like but this culture here understands it. It's part of our culture here in America. We take these, but if you go to Africa and tell them that, they're like, why? I mean, you just go to church.
One thing that I noticed when during the meetups that we have, and especially in Toronto is a quite a multicultural melting pot in a lot of ways, and there's lots of people from lots of different countries, and some of them speak with a very heavy accent because their Punjabi is much better than my Punjabi. Their English is much better than my Punjabi, is what I always think. But they write in English, and I always think, why aren't you writing in your native language? And we had one, I'm not sure if it was a guest or someone at the meetup who said that by writing in his second language, it helped him sort of divorce himself from cliches and look at the language from kind of almost more of an innocent approach, because the words aren't kind of bogged down. With this, uber multicultural approach. I mean, do you sort of go between the languages to kind of release it, or to be more specific with what you're trying to say?
Actually, what he said, I agree 1000% with what he said, because if I start writing in English, sometimes I could get into some 26 letter words that, are very specific to what I'm speaking about. But in relation to everybody else, I mean, I'm going to lose a whole audience because they're not sure what this 26 letter word is. So sometimes jumping to other languages kind of simplifies something that could be very complex. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that certainly does, because a lot of the time you can express something in fewer words in a different language that would take longer or more complicatedness to explain in English, or vice versa, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But are you most comfortable in English, or are you most comfortable in Arabic, or?
I would say writing wise, I'm more comfortable with English. My reasons for using more English is that one, it's more universal, so I can reach a lot more people than that. But at the same time, I could actually wind up alienating people if I get too complex. So, especially with the third verse, it's funny that you even brought that up, because the third verse is very, very simplified. Like the French is very, very simplified. The Russian, "Расслабляться," it just literally means relax. And it's just one word, but it actually derives the whole meaning. And then combining it all together actually creates the whole scene that I needed to create in there. So I find like writing in other languages simplifies everything, and then more people are able to relate and understand and actually connect. But also, if I simplify the English as well, then it can be more universal.
Yeah, it's always a bit of a balancing act, isn't it? And trying to decide, because I mean, chances are any given listener is not going to speak or understand all of these languages.
And if they do,
if they do, then bonus. And if they can keep track and switch when you're switching, because it is, like we said before, it is kind of random and almost arbitrary. There's no pattern to it necessarily. The choruses are all in the Arabic Juba, but yeah.
I think that's one of the dangers of, we on this show, we talk about songwriting with a capital S. It's, very much, it's almost the point of itself, versus sometimes expressing an idea. And I think it can be a danger when you are so much into the crafty bits of songwriting, and you think about the rhyme schemes and the meters and all that stuff, which do make a song wonderful. But if you concentrate on that too much, I think you can lose people, and it just becomes like, sometimes there's this kind of metal which is called math metal, which is really hard to play because it's very, very tight and very complicated with lots of time signatures. But it doesn't do much for me because there's no groove. I mean, I'm someone who fell in love with reggae when I was like 5, and so for me, if it doesn't have a groove, it just doesn't work. And this is, so it's an interesting line as songwriters to go between the head and the heart, and to make sure that, even though you're doing all these little details that maybe Neil and I appreciate, you still need to not as you say, not alienate, a huge swath of people, because, most people don't listen to music that way. They listen to music going, oh, it sounds cool.
And like you're saying before, Amanie, like you can just hit the dance floor with this track, and it works on that level too, because you got that foundational beat. The foundational beat is very important to this song, because it gives you the playground to do all of these strange and interesting things, like switching languages and melodies that change and structural differences. But that beat is what holds it all, pins it all down.
Yeah.
And that's it. So,
was putting the track together, I mean, just in terms of a vocal performance, was that a lot of work, or did it just kind of flow? Like, it feels like it flows, but I know that often is the result of a lot of work and editing. And
have you performed this live yet?
Yeah, we've performed it live. I guess what would be difficult about it is that I'm like, especially with this album, I was staying away from the kind of rap singing. for a while. But I did try a couple of times to get that kind of rap singing thing going on, and that was the most difficult for me.
Would you want to be more melodic all the time?
Yeah, I mean, if you like for the album Saturn, there wasn't very much rap singing. It was
all very sing-songy.
Yeah. And then this one, I was like, well, it's now this whole new trend to do rap, and also I wanted to experiment with it. So for me, actually recording, especially that first verse, was a bit tough because I was like getting into the mode and like, okay, it's not singing, it's just say it, but like you're singing, but with like all these meanings and so it kind of got to my head for a bit, but now like performing it is easy.
Right. Once you get used to it, because that first verse, like if you're following on the lyric sheet, it's going quick.
Yeah,
like, it's a lot of words, but man, you're just flying through because it's more. Yeah, it is more of a talk sing rap type of thing with the AAA rhymes and the just like blasting through it, which is really kind of cool.
It's hard to imagine. There's some people who I imagine there's fewer and fewer as time goes by, but there's people who sort of look down on rap because they don't see it as kind of musical, but it's really, really hard to do really, really well. Like it's one of those things that it seems, they're just sort of doing it, and then you try to do it yourself, and it's like one of those Jackson Pollock paintings. It looks like they just take a bunch of paint and throw it on the canvas. If you try it yourself, you just get a bunch of crap. Like it doesn't look like anything. It's one of these things that it's really tough. And if you ever get to see, there's people who do these rap battles and they just do them off the top of their head. And I don't know how they do it because it takes me like a month to write, a verse. So I couldn't do it because it would just be like, that would be it,
And meanwhile, they just come with song after song, and it's like it's in the moment. I don't know how they do it.
I don't get that at all. That's improv. It's like improv comedy or whatever, right?
Yeah, but
it up on the fly.
I mean, it's topical. It rhymes. It sits on a rhythmic line as well, all at the same time. It blows me away. I don't know how.
Yeah, it's pure talent.
For sure it is. Yeah. And I'll admit, I do often fall in that camp of it's not very musical, but sometimes I can appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, no, there's some incredible. Yeah, it's. I kind of wonder if maybe trying to learn about that as a songwriter can pull you back into the moment versus living in your head.
Yeah, I think there's
I'm someone who lives in my head because it's where all my stuff is. But it's living in the moment for some people, I think is harder for other people. And maybe with rap, like you don't have time to second guess yourself. You just have to sort of be in that moment and kind of go with it. It would take me a lot of work, but maybe it's something I should look at. I don't know.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of work.
Yeah.
So what's coming up next for you, Amanie? Are you going on tour with this album or?
Yes. So this was a bit of a late release album. So right now we're doing a lot of the radio tour. We did a lot of South Sudan about a month ago. So now we're moving towards Canada and then back to Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and then gearing up for a couple of shows in Africa, including South Africa in December, and then the big official show in South Sudan. And then, of course, I have the show in Texas coming in like 2 days. So
wow,
lots of things coming.
That's a lot of air travel.
a lot.
Do you like travel? I hope you do.
No. At one point, I thought that travel was it was fun. And I think a lot of people think it's really, really fun, really, really exciting until you're on a plane for 20 hours and then you land in a different time zone, different country, different weather. And then you know that in 6 days, you got to do another 20-hour trek and followed by another trek. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's a blessing.
Yeah, good reading material.
Yeah.
That's true.
Exactly.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll definitely link to your stuff on the Song Talk Radio post, so people can keep track of where you are and where you're going to be, if you're going to be in their local community to check you out live. Because I remember a few years ago before the pandemic, I saw you perform live. That's how we met, is we shared a stage with my band and everything. And hands down, Amanie's a fantastic live performer. Like, she really owns it. And you go away from Amanie Illfated show and you're like, that is a true artist in a sense. Not a singer-songwriter with the guitar. She's got the whole thing going with the dance moves and the lighting, and everything is just orchestrated so beautifully. And just a really solid show that you put on. So
thank you.
Definitely happy to check you out live next time you're in TO.
Yeah. Just don't forget about us.
Oh, never.
Yeah, be sure to give us a mention when you accept your Juno.
You guys will be there with me.
That's great. We get invited.
Yeah,
That'll be awesome. Okay, I think that's all the time we have. We're hearing the band back there. So special thanks to Amanie Illfated. So great to have you on the show again. And where can our listeners hear more of your music then? What's the name?
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, and now Audio Mac. You could just use the name Amanie Illfated to find me. And also you can find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, X is it called? Yeah, it's all there.
All right. And we want to hear from you, our listeners. So please send your comments, Facebook or Instagram, to @SongTalkRadio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes, and subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show on our resources page on the website. And please join us at our next monthly Song Talk meetup, whether you're in Toronto for in-person meetups or anywhere in the world for our online meetups. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend. Bring a song and a lyric sheet and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil
at philemery.ca.
And Amanie, what's your favorite social media? What's your go-to?
My favorite right now is Facebook.
Okay, Facebook.
Right.
All right, and be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, and keep on writing.
Good night, everyone. Yeah, great stuff.
Awesome. That was very cool.
Yeah, that's a great tune. That's gonna be
awesome.
It's gonna be on a dance.
There was one thing I wanted to mention to you, Amanie. I found this really interesting. Your pre-chorus, Mata Shilu Dawa.
Yeah.
Is Dawa the word for medicine?
Yes.
Because I'm East Indian Gujarati. That's the same word in Gujarati. Dawa is medicine.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy cow! Why did that? And even halwa, like you've had halwa before.
Yeah.
Right. You go to a Persian market or an Indian market, they have a halwa.
Yeah.
Which is
because I think it started with this like sesame. It was like a sesame.
Yeah, sesame halwa or yeah.
Yeah. But then they started calling everything halwa or halwa. I guess you guys call it halwa.
Yeah, we call it halwa.
Halwa, same.
But the same thing.
And like chai.
Well, chai is pretty. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, in most languages, I think it just comes from like
British for crying out loud.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks to all. I just found that amazing that Dawa, even like Dawa was sitting right there. I was like, oh my god.
Are there other words that were the same?
What's that?
Are there other words that are the same?
That's the only one I picked up.
Other than halwa and dawa and chai.
Chai.
I'm sure there's other ones.
There's probably other ones.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Wow. Oh, you got a lot of travel ahead of you. It's gonna be.
I know. My place is a mess because I'm trying to pack for that, and then I have to go back to Africa at the end of the month.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It's non-stop.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's the life, and
Yeah.
It's all in the name of music and in the name of improving the world. So
right.
And
It's fun doing it. So
there's so many people who just wish they could do that. So, enjoy it, because as you say, it's a blessing, because so many people would just love to be able to travel all over the world and play music. But that's amazing. Wow. Well, it's great stuff though, which is why. But
but I look at it the same as like, work. If you're doing a job, you have to commute all the time. Maybe in the first little while when the job is all like super exciting, the commute is like nothing. And then after some time, you're like, I love the job, but the commute.
It's killing me.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but I do my best. I just schedule. I have to see the doctor a lot of times just to make sure I'm like perfectly healthy, do meditation, all of that stuff. Stay away from cobras.
Good advice for us all, I think.
Just keep away from cobras.
Cobras we don't need to engage with too much.
Exactly.
Hilarious. Alrighty,
well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
For sure.
Thanks for coming back on. Great stuff.
Great to see you again, and we'll let you know when the podcast drops. You can share it with all your followers worldwide.
Okay, perfect. I can't wait. They'll love it for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Take care, guys.
All right, take care. Good luck with your travels, and be in touch.
Thank you. All right,
take care.
You.
Bye-bye.
Bye.